What up, world? And welcome back to another episode of the Seeds of Success podcast. It's your host, Colin Walters. And for those that know me, you know that I pride myself on being a high achiever. I've always strived to continuously improve myself, to perform, to produce results. And so when I had a not so good second quarter in my career, by day, my day job is I work in technology sales, and I had a great Q1 and I did not have a great Q2. And that just did not sit well with me. And so here we are 3 months later. We are on, as I record this, it is October 31st, the end of our Q3. And we're about to be going into Q4. And I thought it was the perfect time to actually share with you all what I did at the end of Q2, and more specifically, the questions that I asked that I hope will be able to help you as you either reflect on your past quarter or this past month or this past season of life in preparation to having the best possible next quarter or next month or next season of life. And so funny enough, like I was just, here's the bottom line, is that I just did not perform to the level of my capabilities. And for me, like I felt like a lot of it was focused on the inputs of either not doing the right things or not doing the right things enough, or being too distracted with life and things that just didn't matter during the workday. And so transparently speaking, like it just wasn't a great quarter for me from a results standpoint. And so I just took a moment to reflect. This was 3 months ago. And that next morning I woke up and I grabbed this book right here. For those listening to this recording, I'm holding up Katrin Davidsdottir book called Daughter. And for those that don't know Katrin Davidsdottir, she is a CrossFit athlete. And we found this book in one of the bookshelves in like Costa Rica last summer and picked it up. And I just happened to turn, I was needing a mindset shift. I don't know if y'all ever been there where it's like you just didn't perform, you didn't feel good about the results that you got. You questioned your inputs, you questioned your actions and behaviors that you were doing. And so this book was the right place, right time for me, because I was like, you know what? I need a mindset shift. Like, what is this professional CrossFit athlete doing day in and day out? But more specifically, what is she thinking in order to be the best that she can be? And so I just happened to read this page, and here we go. So she did not get a result that she wanted, right? And so here's what it says in the book, is that he miscalculated, he continues and takes complete responsibility. An hour later, we have outlined a plan for the coming year, but the big questions in my mind are still unresolved. How did we get here? What went wrong? And most important, how do we fix it? And I read that and I stopped. I reread it again. I underlined it. For those that like, I underline books and I write in my books like they are going out of business, and that's a whole different story. But there were a couple takeaways for me. One is that she mentions that they outlined a plan for the upcoming year, right? So I'm like, okay, time for me to outline a plan for this upcoming quarter. And then she says, how did we get here? What went wrong? And how do we fix it? And so I took a step back from that, and even before answering, how did we get here? I asked myself, where are we? Because I needed to know exactly where we were results wise, right? And where are we ultimately trying to go from a performance standpoint? And then I can sufficiently ask myself, and how did I get here? Right? So I basically boiled it down to 6 questions. So I took these, I reframed them a little bit. I kept all 3 of them, but I added some. So here is what I actually said. So a couple of questions that I reflected upon were, where are we? That was results wise. How did we get here? What worked? What didn't work? How do we fix what didn't work? And then for me, one of the things that I pride myself in is doing the fundamentals right. And so I asked myself, what are the core fundamentals to get back to? Because when things aren't working, or we're not getting the results that we want, or um, I think that it's super important to remind myself, what are the fundamentals of what I'm doing? So whether that's, for you in your work or profession, or your personal life of parenting, of friendship, of, if it's something with training and, or doing your own podcast or newsletter, like what are the fundamentals? And for me, like sales is pretty straightforward for me. Like I wrote out my list of fundamentals and I now have them taped to my computer monitor where I stare at them every day to remind myself what those fundamentals are, so that I can always make sure that day by day I'm consistently executing on the fundamentals. So I think it's important to actually hash those out. And so now that we are ending my third quarter, I am going back to asking these same exact questions going into this next quarter, because Q3 was so much better than Q2. And part of it is because I focused on the inputs and tried my very best to detach from the outcomes. And this is something that my coach Ian Koniak, that's one action I took. I invested in a coaching program, and this was something I had been thinking about for a while. And I felt that making investment in myself was going to ultimately be the very best thing that I can do for everything that I'm looking to accomplish. And from a financial standpoint, from a personal development standpoint, career potential, etc. And so just to remind you what these questions are, my intention is that you can use these same questions, because I just did so much better than my Q2. It still is not at the very top of where I want to be. That I can tell you, it is so much better than where I was 3 months ago and 1 quarter ago. And I feel so good about the inputs, the actions, and the behaviors. But in order to actually outline what those needed to be, I needed to take a step back and think. And so however that you do that best, like I went out for walks, I thought, and I wrote notes down in my phone. When I was driving, something would pop into my head. And then the minute that I was able to, either I could capture it on audio, or the minute that I was not driving, I would stop and write those things down. And it was always this like collection of ideas, because I firmly believe that, at least for me, my most creative thoughts and my most organic ways of thinking and reflecting happen when I'm in motion, I'm moving, I'm out and about doing things. Like we can just get struck with inspiration. And so for me, it's like the minute that I plant these seeds, like here's the 6 questions that I'm thinking about. The minute that seed is planted, my brain starts working, and I may not come up with the answers right then and there, because if I'm just sitting and looking at this blank piece of paper, sometimes that's nothing is going to get done for me. There are other times where I can get in a good state of flow. However, I intentionally dedicated walks and workouts and drives and think time to like literally come up with these things. And it was about a week, a 7-day process for me to actually answer all these questions. And it wasn't something that I was stressed about. I was enjoying it, because I was identifying areas of improvement for myself. And so here are the 6 questions. Once again, they are: where are we? How did we get here? What worked? What did not work? How do we fix what didn't work? And what are the core fundamentals to get back to doing? And so as you go into your next day, your next chapter, your next season of life, your next quarter, I think these are some powerful questions for you to ask yourself. And so I would encourage you to do so, and even just start thinking about them, and then actually start taking notes on these things and post them somewhere, which is exactly what I did. I hand wrote these things out. I typed them up. I wrote a newsletter about them, and I put it out there for the world to hear, like that I wasn't okay with my results. Here's where I wanted to go, and here's what I'm doing to bridge that gap. And so if any of you are curious, like some of the things that I tangibly came up with are planning and executing. So I became a much better planner over this last quarter, actually having an intention for each day and each week. It still is, I haven't improved. It's not perfect by any means. But planning and executing was like a huge one. Getting back to the fundamentals. So for me, that was daily phone calls out to prospective customers and my current customers that I'm working with. It was having my systems and routines dialed in for the actual workday. It was making sure that I'm still having fun with what I'm doing and making the day by days enjoyable, setting goals and rewards, like all the things that, have helped me get here. It was also continued learning, like being able to actually dedicate time each day and each week to personal development in my craft. And so like those are some of the ones that just come to mind initially, and then getting back to those fundamentals. And so I hope that those questions can help you. And I felt like it was a perfect time to release this episode to let you know where I was, what I did, and now here I am and going through this process again. And so I hope that helps. If there are any questions that you go through when you're going through your own reflection process, I would love to hear what they are. I've done these specific questions one time. It was, here's a pro in her craft, one of the best in the world. Here's what she thinks. Sounds like something that I should do. So I hope this message finds you well. If you are finding any value in this, I would greatly appreciate if you shared this episode with somebody that it might help. Go ahead and if you haven't done so already and you want to, feel free to subscribe to the newsletter. That would be awesome. We're getting a lot of traction and I'm super excited about the newsletter. You can click the link in the show notes below. You can also go to seedsofsuccess.beehive.com/subscribe. And if you wouldn't mind leaving a 5-star rating and review, I would seriously appreciate it. I hope that y'all are having an awesome day. Let's go make this an amazing month. We got like just under 9 full weeks of this year left. Less than 9 full weeks with a lot of family time, a lot of personal time, a lot of holidays. Like it's going to be action packed. Let's go make the most of it. Let's make the days count. And I will see you all on the next episode.